Hello. Hold on one second.
They've been going.
Going good. Are you over the age of 18? I only debate people over the age of 18 now.
22.
Okay, cool. So what's up? What'd you want to debate?
Yeah, I'm a Christian. I go to a Lutheran church. I became a Christian maybe 2 years ago.
I'm so sorry.
I know you used to be a Christian. That's fine. But as a Christian, I think in general, Christians in America do less crime than atheists in America. Or at least when people become religious, they do less crime.
That's already been studied and shown to be generally just untrue. Like they actually tracked daily moral actions of believers and non-believers, and they found that they both did about the same amount of moral and immoral day-to-day actions.
Okay.
So I don't
I would
think
say,
that I don't think converting necessarily reduces crime. I will agree though that yes, on average, Christians are not out there committing a whole bunch of crime. That's true. However, the idea that like just being a Christian makes you more moral or something is definitely not true.
no, that's definitely not true. I wouldn't say becoming a Christian does not make you a better person.
Okay. But it doesn't make
And I
you
don't,
act more moral either.
yeah, no. I would say, well, on, you know, it's very hard to statistically define morality, and people have their problems, but in general, I think when someone becomes a Christian, they are more likely to start doing charity or, um, you tend to find like prisoners who get out of jail and then they become like Pentecostal and they, stop doing crime, stuff like that. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's some of that, sure, but isn't that just somebody finding motivation to do things? I mean, I guess your argument isn't necessarily that that makes Christianity true, but hold on, I'm trying to find the actual study for you.
yeah, that I'd be interested in that study.
It's
Yeah,
this one right here by Live Science. Religion doesn't make people more moral, study finds. A new study suggests that religious people aren't more likely to do good than their non religious counterparts. And while they may vehemently disagree with one another at times, liberals and conservatives also tend to be on par when it comes to behaving morally.
yeah. Something interesting I found was that when you look at like Catholics and Christians and atheists, the rate that they cheat on their partners is actually extremely high. So it is true that I would say it is true that when you become a Christian or there is a Christian, it doesn't make you a better person. It's kind of something you got to work on. But
Mm-hmm.
in general, I think there are some positive things like charity. I do think that in general, Christians do charity more and they do adopt people more. And this is more of a personal thing that I've seen at my church. Um, I've seen a lot of people having adopted children at my church, and I think that is true. I think I've heard that Christians adopt twice as much as non-Christians.
But again, I guess it just depends as to what the purpose of bringing that up even is. Like, Christians adopt more. Are they adopting more because they're Christian? I don't think so. Or is
Why
it
do you
just so
think?
happen that maybe they're Christian? Like, Christians make up the large majority of this country. So, of course, the majority of people that are adopting are also going to be more likely to be Christian.
Yeah, but I wouldn't consider someone who doesn't go to church not like Christian.
You wouldn't consider them a Christian?
Yeah, well, you have a lot of people like I live in Georgia and it says that like 70 to 80% of people here are Christian, but I wouldn't consider them to be Christian. Like everyone in my household, all my friends are non-Christian.
All right, well, I'm reading right here also. Despite their pro strong family values, evangelical Christians have higher than average divorce rates. In fact, being more likely to be divorced than Americans who claim no religion, according to findings as cited by researchers from Baylor University.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there are problems within the Christian community, but there's
so that's the thing
also
is like, what's the purpose then of like, sometimes Christianity helps people not cheat. Okay. That doesn't mean Christianity is true. It's also completely possible to not cheat and not be a Christian. So, why do we
yeah.
need this Christianity thing to begin with?
Well, it so like the moral effects of a of Christianity isn't based upon making someone a better person. It's more about making them saved. So like, an evil pedophile can become a Christian and that's good. Like we want everyone to become Christian. It
Uh-huh.
like it's more about like saving people than anything.
Yeah, but what is the ultimate reason that you want people to be saved? I'm guessing that it's going to have something to do with because if everybody were following God, society itself would be better.
I don't think there will ever be a society where everyone follows God.
No, I mean
And
if more people followed God, like society
oh,
would improve.
um, if more people were Christian, maybe, but the people are just in general, just most people are just not good. Not, they're pretty evil. Everyone's evil.
I don't really agree with that either. I think that a lot of people are very good. I'm just not sure what I guess the argument is that you're making here. Like,
Oh, the argument that I made in chat, I was saying that in general, Christians probably do less crime.
oh, so that's it? Just in general, oops, sorry. In general, Christians might do less crime. Okay, but why?
Why? Because they might have a moral aversion to very immoral things. And maybe they probably don't, they probably on general, like there's probably a hierarchy where there are very, very, very immoral things that
Mm-hmm.
they don't do. And the less moral things like maybe cheating on their wife or pornography or I don't know, like lower things. Those are still big things, but like we would both agree that murdering someone or like theft would be worse than pornography, right?
Yeah, but you can also recognize all these things are wrong without God. Also, I'm reading this too. Less religion actually results in less violence. Societies with less religion have less violence. Murder rates, like most violent crime rates, are lower in more secular nations and more secular states in the US.
I would
Also,
say
if you look at this, since you brought up church attendance, gun attendance versus gun violence, you can see right here in America that
yeah.
even though church attendance was going up, so was gun violence. So a
Yeah.
bunch of people were Christian in society, and if it's not improving society, if it's not making society better, then why do I care about it?
Well, I would say with the firearm thing for first, that's most likely because a lot of Christians, a lot of the faithful Christians come from the South. The Deep South has a very Christian culture. And in the deep south you have more firearms, and where you have more firearms you'll have more firearm related rates of crime and generally crime. And two,
But you
I'd have to
just,
look at
but didn't you, but you realize that's a contradiction, right? Because before you said, I bet Christians probably commit less crime. And now you're
no
saying,
no
well, these Christians in this
generally
area probably are committing more crime.
so I would say that like firearm crime and crime in general are different. You might have more firearm related crime in Christian areas, right? Because there's just more gun ownership there, but that doesn't mean that there's more crime in general.
I mean, I'm reading literally right here societies with less religion have less violence. Safest cities in
Well,
the world are nearly all in non religious countries, and the 8 that are in the US are in the least religious regions.
that's because when you're relating like religiously, like you'd have to look at the scope of United States or Europe, and then do the scope on just those countries. And I would like to see, hey, are the religious communities within Germany less or more crime riddled than the atheistic kind of places?
Even if you were
Because
able
you're
to demonstrate that, though, then what is the point? That Christianity stops people from committing crime?
well, major crimes, yeah,
See,
I
I
would
would
say.
disagree with that. And furthermore, I would say, even if that's true, you have a problem that the only thing holding people back from committing mass atrocity is that they believe in Sky Daddy judging them if they do a bad thing. What if they suddenly stop believing in God? Now all of a sudden they're just totally fine with raping and murdering a bunch of people.
I would say there's atheists who have morality,
Yeah,
but
I have
but
morality.
if
I'm an
you're
atheist.
yeah, I would I would think that you wouldn't want to kill a bunch of people, but you
No, and I
know,
don't need God to stop me from doing that because I can recognize logically why not killing people is better for me. If I only give a fuck about myself, like a selfish piece of shit, I can still come to the conclusion that if I were to go out and kill a bunch of people, that would be bad for me. So I don't want to do that.
yeah, but you got to look at like you gain your morality from your culture, and I would say the culture was is fundamentally Christian. So if you look at like pre-Christian Europe was not a good place. And
It's
then,
not about
you know,
Christianity necessarily, and a lot of the ideas that Christianity purports to pioneer were around before. Were there rules against murdering in society before the Ten Commandments? Pretty sure. Pretty sure there
yeah,
were.
yeah, but they were doing human sacrifices in Norway and Sweden and Denmark and in Poland and a lot of other places,
Uh,
before the Christians came to
Christians
Mexico.
have literally engaged in a bunch of mass atrocities also. I
Yeah,
just don't think
but
it's
they,
fair to be like, well, Christianity is better because it's not really. I haven't heard yet a strong point from you as to why Christianity is better necessarily, or even how it would be responsible for cutting back on crime. I think if it were responsible in cutting down on crime, that would be a problem because you have people that are just not committing crime just because they're afraid of the consequences.
yeah, I think people generally have a general aversion to crime just in general, but that aversion comes from a culture of Christianity.
Some studies suggest that religious involvement can reduce the risk of criminal behavior. A study of 13 industrial nations found that countries with higher levels of religiosity had lower crime rates, particularly for property crimes. Okay. Some research suggests that religion can be counterproductive and that the automatic assumption that religion inhibits bad behavior is incorrect. I'm trying to find.
And I think in general, when we're talking about religion, I'm talking about specifically Christian religion, not like you could say, yes, religion does not correlate with crime if you look at a global scale, because I would say in general, you're looking at high crime rate areas like sub-Saharan Africa, which is extremely religious, but also
Well,
crime
sure, I know
ridden.
that like environment obviously is going to play a role there. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like there is a somewhat decrease in some criminal behavior uh, if people are practicing religion, I guess. But I'm not really sure if that's enough. I'm pretty sure that being part of an active community would also reduce your likelihood of committing violence.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, and religion, Christianity gives you a community, and a lot of people don't have communities until they become religious.
Right. So maybe it's not even about religion. Maybe it's about the community that religion currently has a bit of a monopoly on.
Yeah, well, we haven't really found a lot of atheistic community. Well, there are communities, but not as tight as Christian communities or religious communities are. There hasn't really been that many.
So then wouldn't the conclusion be like we need more community outreach?
Well, how do you do that? Then why hasn't that
I
been
don't know,
done?
get the community together to do something together that doesn't have to revolve around preaching.
Yeah, but we haven't seen that. You've had a couple hundred years of kind of
Well, that's because religion kind
modern
of has a
society.
bit of a monopoly on it.
Yeah, but we kind of live in a post-religion kind of Western world, so why hasn't that popped up yet?
Let's see, secular alternatives to church.
You can go to you can go to the bar. I don't know, like that's what my parents do, and I don't think
People are
that's
saying
very healthy.
yoga is a popular alternative. So yoga could be one, I guess. I don't know. I'm just sort of spitballing here.
I don't think going on a Discord community or debating people is community. Someone said in chat, and like people replace church with like, you know, they'll go to the bar, for community. They'll go on online communities. Um, a lot of just not good stuff. Discord's kind of fun, but you don't really build a great community online. You gotta be in person.
I would agree with that. You need to be on person, but I am reading about how it seems as though friendship in general significantly helps to reduce uh, violence or acting out
Definitely.
in violence. So if it's about friendship more so, then I think it would be more important to try and provide an alternative where friendship can be focused on that doesn't revolve around the harmful teachings that are Christianity.
What would you say is a harmful teaching?
Well, do you want to talk about the foundational fundamental problems, or do you want to talk about like the general teachings? Because they're
Just
both.
just like one of them that you have on top of your mind.
It would be like what you said to me. The pedophile could just go to heaven if he accepted God. That means that God, being the supposed ultimate judge, is not judging based on action, but instead is judging based on belief. And to me, that's not justice at all. That then means that, yes, the pedophile who rapes kids can go to heaven, and the guy who spends his entire life giving to the poor but just didn't believe in God is cast into hell. That's not
Well,
justice.
I think everyone deserves to go to hell, and it's only because of God's grace that we can ever go to heaven. So I think it's totally justified that everyone goes to hell.
Uh, okay, well, I
So
don't, because again, that's another flaw, because you're talking about a eternal punishment for a finite sin or a finite crime.
I would say every sin is infinite in nature because you're committing a sin, a crime against an infinite, all-loving God.
How
So
can you commit a crime or a sin? How can you commit some harm against an invincible entity?
well, just like you can offend your mother without touching your mother or hurting your mother,
Yeah,
like
but my mom
punching
isn't God.
her, right?
My mom can be hurt by
Well,
words. God, I thought, is God. How come me saying, oh my God, is is hurting God's feelings to the point that now I deserve to go into hell for eternity?
well, it's because God is a unblemished, lamb, and you're desecrating on that. And it's like I'll give you an
He's not
example.
unblemished. That's another
I'll give you
flaw.
I'll give you an example. If you kick a dog, you know, and you kick let's say a baby child, kicking the baby child is worse than kicking the dog, right? Because the baby child has more value than the dog.
Hmm.
And I would say that God has infinite value because he is himself infinite. Whenever you do a sin, you're doing not only the sin that you're doing, but also you're disobeying God.
Yeah, but
And
why
because of
is.
that,
But you're trying to tell me that God is unblemished, and that's why he punishes
yeah, he's
sin so
infinitely.
harshly. But God is not unblemished because God's actions and behavior throughout the Bible is the opposite of moral.
Um,
So you have a problem with God being okay with slavery. I'm sure you've heard my arguments about that in the
yeah, yeah,
past. We have the
yeah.
problem with God commanding Moses on how to divvy up the virgins so that they can be raped by the fucking army. There are so many flaws throughout the Old Testament, New Testament as well, where God is acting in a way that is so immoral that I do not think God is this unblemished being that cannot possibly be in the presence of sin or something. I don't think that's true because God is literally an immoral monster throughout the Bible.
Mm. Yeah, well, I haven't. I'm a new Christian, so I haven't read all of the Old Testament, and I'm not that versed in apologetics for that.
Well, maybe
Like
I
Old
can steer you in the right direction, my friend, because the thing that really blew my mind was Leviticus 24:44.
bringing up.
This is the
Is that
NIV.
about slavery?
What's that?
Is that slavery?
Yeah.
Can you do the ESV,
Yeah.
English Standard Version?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Here, sure. Hold on one second. Here's. Okay, it is. Oh, come on, hold on. It's giving me an error all of a sudden. That was weird.
What does Eric Handy said? Born again Christians tend to be the nuttiest. What does that mean?
I actually don't know.
Yeah, what does that mean?
So it says, the Lord spoke to Moses, command the people of Israel to bring you pure oil, right? And it goes on through all of these rules. And when we get to 44, God says this. Hold on. My
What was
apologies.
it
Take me a
in
second.
Leviticus?
It's
What?
Yeah, it's right here. You shall not rule over him ruthlessly. As for your male and female slaves, whom you may have, you may buy male and female slaves from among the nations that are around you. You may also buy from among the strangers who are with you, and their clans that are with you, who have been born in your land, and they may be your property. You may bequeath them to your sons after you to inherit as a possession forever. You may make slaves of them, but over your brothers of the people of Israel, you shall not rule one over another ruthlessly. So don't rule over your fellow Israelites, but if you want to go out and buy slaves from the nations around you, that's a-okay.
What did it say about forever? Like you'd have them forever?
Yeah, it said you may also buy from among the strangers who are with you. You may bequeath them to your sons after you to inherit as a possession forever.
So in Leviticus, does it say like are the slaves able to pay their freedom off, or
There were some slaves that were set free. I think that was specifically for the Hebrew slaves. But if you purchased a slave from the nations around you, from the heathen nations around you, then you were able to keep them forever. There's also another really twisted loophole in which God says, hey, you can let this one slave go after a certain amount of time, but if you've given him a wife and child, that wife and child still belong to the master. So if the man wants to go free, he has to abandon his wife and child.
okay, I see.
So there's just a lot of flaws that way, which is why it's like I can't have this. I'm not compelled by like being told that God is unblemished or that we can't disrespect God or whatever, because I think that God has disrespected humanity.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, I would say it's, slavery. I'm not a historian, but in Christianity, slavery is it's not yes, it is allowed in the Old Testament, but I would say that like it seems to me that God wanted slavery to be more like, how do I explain it? Um you can have a master, but the master has to protect the slave.
That's not true. In Exodus, God says that you can beat the slave, and as long as he recovers in a day or two, it's fine.
Does it say that you can beat him?
Yeah.
Like he's God saying like you can beat the slave.
Yes, literally. Hold on. Exodus. Anyone who beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result, but they are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their property. Exodus 21.
So if they die, it's like 3 days after, like nothing happens.
No, yeah, like if the slave dies as a result of you beating the slave, then you'll be punished. But if you beat the shit out of your slave, but then a day or two later and all they have is like a black eye, then you won't be punished because they're just your property. But yeah, man, I appreciate you calling in here. We have kind of steered off the topic, but just totally. Look into that. I know that you said you're a new Christian. I don't want to I don't want to make you go through some existential crisis or something, but
totally open-minded.
Yeah, but I would definitely look into some more of this if I were you, because that's kind of the first problem, in my opinion, because if God is literally condoning immoral actions, how then can God also be the ultimate morality? It doesn't make sense.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
You said that there is do you believe there's any practices modern day Christians do that is immoral?
As well, like practices, I think it's more the teachings, like the general homophobic teachings, I think are definitely harmful. I think the fact that there are far more evangelical Christians that are not accepting of gay people, even compared to US Muslims, that's pretty embarrassing. If you look that up, white evangelical Christians are more homophobic than US Muslims. That should be fucking concerning for a lot of Christians.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on.
Sure. See you later.
Right. Bye-bye.
If you want to support the channel, please consider becoming a member today. Members get early access to videos, access to all the stream VODs, and exclusive access to emotes as well. So if you'd like to support the channel, become a member today.